Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for our webinar on an easy and effective way to address data privacy concerns in SAP. My name is Tony Burning, and I'm a product manager here at NextLabs. Today, I'm also going to be joined by my colleagues, Pratap and Krishna, who will be demonstrating some of the features of our product DAE, or Data Access Enforcer for SAP. Just a few housekeeping items. We will be recording this webinar, and we'll be sending out links to that recording to everyone who registered for the webinar after the webinar is completed and after we have the recording uploaded and available. If you have any questions during the webinar, we will have a time for Q&A at the end of the webinar, but you can also ask questions in the chat through the webinar interface. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen that you should be able to use to submit any questions that you have during the webinar, and we'll address those either during the webinar in the chat, or we'll be addressing it at the end during the Q&A section. You also have a chance to ask any questions during the Q&A section as well. So with that, I think we'll get started. Our agenda for today is we're going to talk about some of the challenges that we're facing and what we're going to be addressing today. We'll talk about some data privacy scenarios in SAP, and then we'll move into a section on use cases and a solution demonstration before opening up to Q&A at the end. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague Pratap, and he'll take it from here.
Hello everybody, good morning and good afternoon. My name is Pratap Sakala, VP of Engineering here at NextLabs. Let me start off with a quick background on NextLabs. Essentially, we help you protect your sensitive data. We were founded 15 years ago in Silicon Valley, but we have since expanded our offices to include locations in Asia and Europe. Our customer list spans a number of industries, especially aerospace and defense, manufacturing, pharma, and financial services, among several others. We have got a strong ecosystem of partners ranging from SAP, Siemens, and Microsoft to large global systems integrators such as Deloitte, KPMG, Infosys, and Accenture. We have also partnered with organizations like NIST to help establish the standards for key data security technologies. Despite the current situation with this new normal, business agility and success is determined by the ability to effectively and quickly share information easily across organizations and geographies. However, challenges abound when striking a balance between sharing access to sensitive data on one hand and the need to protect business critical data on the other, while meeting the compliance requirements and regulations such as GDPR, CCPA, Sarbanes-Oxley, and others. This is made even more challenging at a time with a lot of remote working happening, as well as using several cloud apps, using mobile devices, and others. To effectively comply with various standards and industry regulations, businesses need an integrated, cost-effective information risk management solutions that prevent compliance violations, improving automation procedures, and auditing data usage. So that sets the stage for where NextLabs comes into play. NextLabs offers policy-driven data-centric security solutions that uses dynamic authorization to protect SAP data in real time. Here is the NextLabs SAP solution offering to safeguard information sharing for SAP ecosystem. To start with, SAP Dynamic Authorization Management by NextLabs that focuses on protecting and securing the application data and simplifying the role management. The next one, SAP Enterprise Digital Rights Management by NextLabs that primarily focus on protecting unstructured data like critical files and documents stored inside and outside of SAP applications. The next one is NextLabs Data Access Security that focuses on providing secure access and protecting critical data stored in the database at data access layer. NextLabs solves these problems by protecting sensitive data, by enforcing authorized operations on business critical data, by masking and filtering, using various attributes such as data classification, environmental information, user roles, and other metadata like location and client system details. NextLab solutions provide comprehensive visibility about who is accessing what data and when, and monitor and tracks events for audit, oversight, and investigation that keeps you out of trouble on the compliance front, thereby improving business agility as well as reducing the risk and compliance management costs. With that note, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Krishna, who will be going through a few real world scenarios focusing on data privacy concerns in SAP. Krishna, over to you.
Hello everyone, my name is Krishna. I'm a solution architect from NextLabs. Today we will look at what is data privacy and different scenarios of possible scenarios of data privacy in SAP. And then we'll also see some use case demonstration to show you how you can use NextLabs products to implement the data privacy scenarios in SAP. So what is data privacy, right? Data privacy is basically part of data security, which talks about proper handling of data, especially the sensitive data such as your personal information or some sensitive financial information. It deals with how do you collect the data, how do you store it, how long you retain it, and how do you destroy it. It's the whole life cycle of data collection and data usage and data destruction. Again, there are a lot of regulations today that mandate these data privacy laws in different countries, such as GDPR, which is very prominent in EU, and also CCPA, which is California Consumer Privacy Act, and also GLBA and HIPAA. All these, there are different regulations in different countries. End of the day, the idea is to secure the sensitive information about the about an user, right, whether the employee, a customer, or a vendor. So you could see here, CCPA is very, it's already effective starting 2020, and GDPR is there since 2018. And if you're not compliant with GDPR or CCPA, there are huge penalties that are to be paid if you're not complying with it. So it's very important, from a regulatory perspective, and also from your own company's standards and security perspective. It's important that you secure the sensitive information about employees, customers, or vendors. So let's look at what are the different scenarios in SAP where you could see some potential data privacy concerns. So just like any other application, SAP collects or stores and shares information with the different maybe third-party applications, or maybe some integrations with some other non-SAP or SAP applications. So in this whole process, there is a need to secure the identity. Mainly, only authorized users can see that sensitive information, whereas unauthorized users should not be allowed to see that sensitive information. So few examples I could like to give here. One is definitely SAP HCM, which is a HR module in SAP, where you store all the employee information. So in the employee data, you have sensitive details like SSN, date of birth, or nationality. All these are very sensitive to the employee. So that is stored in SAP. So those are things to be secured. And also, if you look at master data, especially the customer master, so you have information about your customer, exactly like who's the customer contact person, what is the customer contact phone number, for example, and also what the bank account of the customer, which country or which bank, and also what is the account number. All those information is available in customer master and SAP. So it's important to store secure that information as well. Similarly, vendor master, when you deal with vendors for procuring raw materials or maybe some components, you have some sensitive information about the vendor, especially your vendor contact person, and also the bank information, just like customer, you have bank details about the vendor if you are doing a B2B type of integration. And even if you look at SAP Finance, where you have financial information, so there's a lot of sensitivity around the financial data, especially that deals with your performance of the company, like whether it is a gross margin report, or even the forecasted gross margin, for example, right, or maybe forecasted EPS. So these information, if it gets leaked, it could potentially get into internal trading issues, or could also be an external problems as well. And also, if you look at the general manufacturing process, you have sensitive information around price, especially companies don't want to disclose price that they sold with some customers, so maybe some special customers, they don't want anybody else to know what was the price they offered for a special customer, for example, right? So there is always a need to protect or control who can see that sensitive pricing information within SAP. So with all these scenarios, where you see a need for securing private data, so we will see how you can use NextLabs product to implement solutions to address data privacy concerns in SAP.
In this example, we will see how we can use NextLabs products to mask a specific data. So here we're going to look at SAP HR, which is a HR module in SAP, and we have a PII information, what we call personal identifiable information, such as SSN number, date of birth, nationality. So in this example, we will see how you can mask such type of sensitive data so that only authorized people can see it. For unauthorized people, they'll see the masked data instead of the actual data. So in this example, we're going to demonstrate with two users, demo user 1 and 2. So the functionality is that demo user 1 can see his own SSN and date of birth from HR record, but when he tries to see the same information for any other employee, then he cannot see the actual value, but he sees the masked value. Similarly, for demo user 2, he can see his own record, but for others, he'll see masked data. So let's look at this in the system. Let's take a quick let's look at the SAP. So we have I already logged into demo user 1. So current demo user, if we go to run transaction PA20, which is a display of HR record. So in SAP we have a concept of personal number. So demo user 1 has personal number 7. So you can see Mr. Demo user 1. So he is the and he can see the personal data from this info type called personal data. So if you go in here, we have SSN and date of birth. So he can see his date of birth and his SSN, right? Since he's looking at his own record, he's able to see the data. Let's try to see another employee record here. So let's try to open another transaction here, and let's open another person. Let's say person number 24. She's Miss Jennifer Stone. So if you try to look at personal data for this particular user, so you can see here, so in the SSN field you are seeing 999, which is a masked value. At the same time, in the date of birth also you're seeing 31/12/999. So basically this is again a masked value. So these two are coming as a masked value from the policy. So let's take a quick look at the policy that we have. So we have written two different policies, one for date of birth and one for SSN, because date of birth is a date type of date field, and whereas SSN is a numeric field. So different type of fields will require different policy. So here I'm going to show a date of birth policy. It's very simple policy. So here you mention which system you're trying to apply this. I'm going to apply this from H49 system. So in SAP H49, this policy is going to be effective. And then you mention which table and field that you want to mask. So you mentioned PA002, which is the table for personal data info type in SAP, and GBDAT, the field for date of birth. And then you have a condition. So the condition we said, he can see his own data, but any other employee, then he cannot see the data. He should see this masking. So that's the condition. So here, we wrote a condition saying that if the user ID is not equal to the one who's trying to access it, then mask the data. So it's very simple. Using this policy, you can mask date of birth and SSN. Similarly, the masking can be applied to any table and any field. In fact, you can also apply masking across SAP just by mentioning a field name without giving any table. So wherever the field exists, the masking will be applied in all the tables wherever that field exists. So this is a very powerful feature that NextLabs has, and it's very useful when securing PII or even a PHI type of data, or any sensitive, including customer data, any financial data, or HR data.
in this use case, we will see how to protect sensitive price data in SAP that is material management module. So in the purchase order, you have the net price for every line item, basically for every material that's part of the PO. So you have a net price. That the requirement is that only authorized people should be able to see the net price on a PO, and unauthorized users should not be allowed to see. And the way I set up the scenario here, we have two users, demo user 6 and 7, and each of them have a specific product group or a material group assigned to them. User 6 is assigned with L001 and user 7 with Z break. So only the assigned material group materials, the corresponding price can be seen by the user. For example, demo user 6 can only see price for materials that are part of L001. If he is trying to look at any other PO or any other material that is not part of L001, he should see a masked value. Similarly, for 7, he can see the Z break materials price. For anything other than that, he should see a masked value. So let's take a quick look at how this can be done using NextLab. I already logged on and to demo user 6, and then I can quickly show you where we have that material group assignment done. So part of the product, you have a user attribute maintenance tool where you can assign user attribute values to the user, or these can also be derived. For example, here, if you look at demo user 6, mat underscore group, this is the attribute name, is assigned to L001. And then demo user 7, it is assigned to Z breaks. And now if you look at the policy, the corresponding policy for this particular scenario, I'm going to search for EKPO. That's where we have our policy. So this is the corresponding policy for this particular scenario. So again, so if you look into the, these are all, basically the system where, this policy is relevant. The H49 is the system name. And then this is saying that the resource that we are trying to access is the table EKPO. If you look in the data masking obligation details here, you can see that on the EKPO, net PR, which is the net price, and MENGE, which is the quantity. So both these fields we wanted to mask with 999. And the condition is important here. Its condition says that MATKL, which is the product group, not equal to user.mat group. So if you have any product which does not belong to the material group that user is assigned to, then you mask it. But if this condition is fulfilled, if the material group is matching, then you don't mask. Okay, that's how the policy is interpreted. Let's quickly verify this, how it's done. So demo user 6, I'm gonna quickly check in the EKPO table. So he should be able to see L001 price, but any other material he should see a masked value. So let's take a quick look. Let me sort this by, let's say, so you can see I see L01, some of the PO items belong to L001 material group. And then you can see that, he is able to see the actual net price for each of them. But if you go down, if you pick any other purchase order that doesn't belong to L001, for example, look at here, right? So you have a purchase order that has Z breaks material product, and the net price is masked as 999. So basically only L001 he is able to see the price. Other than that, he is not able to see the price. So let's also verify this quickly from the T code. So I just copied this PO number. So this particular PO is having the material group as Z break. For example, there is a Z break, the Z frame. So you can see that all the price and the quantity is masked 999. Whereas if you look at a purchase order that is containing L001 material group, so let's pick maybe this one. And then if you open that PO, and he should be able to see the price. Yeah, we can see the price here. Right. Similarly, we can do a quick test for demo user 7 too, just to show that it works based on the attributes of the user. So again, when demo user 7 try to run EKPO table data, so he's assigned with the Z breaks as the material group. So only Z break, he should see the net price. Like for example, if you look at this particular line item, he's able to see the actual price of the line item, right? If you look at other item like the Z frame, Z handle, or other material groups, he's seeing a masked value. So let's quickly validate this in the system. So if I take this order and look at ME23N, the purchase order display. So if you look at the line item details here, so you can see that only this particular line item number 6, he's able to see the net price, actual net price. For all the line items, he's seeing a masked value. So like in this way, you can mask the unauthorized data so that only authorized people can see it. For anybody else, they'll see a masked value. This use case is on protecting sensitive master data in SAP. As you know, SAP has a lot of master data objects in it. Example would be like customer master, vendor master, material master. And some of these objects actually contain sensitive information. For example, if you take customer master or vendor master, both of them have bank account number of the partner, whether it's a customer or vendor. So bank account information like bank account number, bank key, account name, and all these details are stored in SAP, in a different tables, and then the data is accessible via different transactions as well. Whenever you have such sensitive data in SAP, it is always important to protect sensitive data so that unauthorized people cannot view the data. Only authorized people can look at those data. So in this example, we'll take a look at two users, demo user 5 and 6. One of the user, demo user 5, is a finance user, whereas 6 is a purchasing user. This demo is basically set up like that. Only the finance user can see the sensitive bank account information on a business partner, whereas purchasing or anybody other than finance group, when they try to look at bank account details in SAP for a given customer or a vendor, they should not see the actual value. They should see the masked value. Let's take a look at how this looks in the system.
As you can see, the policy has multiple components in it. One key component, what we call, is the subject condition, where you can write a specific condition for the user, whoever is accessing the data. So here the condition we have is department _ SAP not equal to finance. So if the user department does not belongs to finance, then this policy is relevant. And also the resource component. Resource could basically mean which system you're going to apply this to. Like you could have multiple SAP systems in the landscape. So if you want this policy to be applied to a specific system, you can mention that specific resource name here. So in this example, I mentioned H49. That's the name of the SAP system I'm going to use for the demo today. And then the real policy, the masking policy information is mentioned in the obligation, where you can mention the table name, field, and the type of masking. So for example, here the masking table is BUT0BK, and the fields, here you can list your set of fields, and then you can define what type of masking you are applying, whether it is a full mask or you want to do a partial mask. So you can also do a partial mask, meaning you can only mask, you can leave maybe the last 4 positions intact, mask the remaining else, like that. So in this example, I'm going to show full masking. So and the mask value, the mask symbol. So here I mentioned as ****. So basically **** would be used as the mask value when it's used in the system. So this is the policy, and we can see how this takes effect in the SAP system. Let's confirm the department for the user. There are multiple ways you can assign a department to the user. In this example, we use the user master record from SAP SE01 transaction. So let's take a quick look at what department they belong to. Demo user 5. You can see the department is finance. Let's also check for demo user 6. Demo 6 is purchasing. So the requirement is that if the data being accessed by a non-finance user, then the data should be masked. So let's start with demo user 6, who belongs to purchasing department. Demo user 6. Let's look at the table data first, and then we'll go and see the transaction. So to look at the table data, we could use SE16 transaction, and then BUT0BK is the underlying table for that particular data. So you can execute wide open and see. So as you can see here, the three fields: bank key, bank account number, and the account name. All the three fields are shown with star, which is a masked value coming from the policy. Right. So you can see that it's applied across the board, meaning it is applicable to all the business partners without any restriction. Let's also confirm this from a from the transaction level. So I'm going to access it using BP. The T code is BP, and you can key in the specific. You can pick any BP. I just picked this one, and let's see. So here you can display the basic data of the business partner, including name and address. So the bank information is stored in the payment transactions tab. You can see here the bank key, bank account number, and the account name. All the three fields are shown with star. Right? This is because the demo user 6 is not a finance user. That's why he's in the masked value. Let's try to see the same data for a finance user who is demo user 5. So let's try to display the table again. I'm going to run wide open. As you can see here, you could clearly see that bank key, bank account number, and the account name. I think account name is not filled for many of the records, but you can see that finance user can see the data that's specific. So let's take. We could take the same BP that we used. So this is the BP where non-finance user was seeing a masked value. So let's try to open same BP with the finance user. You can go to the payment transactions tab, and you can see here. So the bank key and the bank account number. So both are visible to the finance user. So this way, using a simple policy defined at the table and field level, the masking can be made across the system. Irrespective of whether it is a table or a T code or even a report or even a Fury app. Irrespective of how you access the data, the masking is applied just by using one policy defined at the table level. The scenario we're going to demonstrate is at the time of downloading a document, basically an attachment from SAP. The document will be protected based on the policy, and based on the policy there will be different permissions or rights that will be assigned to different users. To demonstrate this, we will be downloading a document attachment from SAP, and then we will check that the document is protected with different rights for different people. So we're going to use three different users: engineer 1, BOM engineer 1, BOM engineer 4, and BOM project 1. BOM engineer 1 will be downloading the document with protection. So he can see that, we can check that he will have all permissions on the document, whereas engineer 4 do not have any permissions on the document, whereas project 1 user, he can view the document, he can print the document, but he is not allowed to edit the document. So let's check these things in the system. So this is BOM engineer 1 in SAP system. We're going to run a transaction CS03, which is a display of a BOM. This is a material BOM that we have created, and on the material BOM, on the header data, we have different DIR, document info records, that are connected to it. We're going to pick a specific. We can have multiple DIRs, so we're going to pick a specific DIR here, and then this particular DIR has the attachments connected to it as part of linked objects. As you can see, there are two attachments connected here. One is a cylinder, VDS file. It's a 3D visual drawing file, and then we also have a SAP Pocket Knife. It's as a VDS file. So engineer one will let's try to view the file and also to download the file. So when you try to view the file, let's say when you try to double click to view the file, so what happens is that the file temporarily gets downloaded to a system, and then it opens up in the enterprise visual viewer. As you can see, now this is how he can view the file. Now let's try to download this document and then see whether the file gets protected or not. So to download the file, use the option of copy to. I'm going to download this to a folder called demo on the desktop on my system. So as you can see, the file has been downloaded. You can go and check the file. I'm gonna check the file here. So it's in the desktop demo folder. You can see the file got created now. You can also see that there is an extension NXL, which means that this particular product, this particular attachment is protected, and NXL is the extension that NextLabs assigned to it when it protects the document. So on this protected document, you can also see currently, we have different users. So we have a SkyDRM component, which is part of the product. So that particular component manages the different users authorization. So I'm going to log in with the BOM Engineer 1 into the SkyDRM client. So I logged into BOM Engineer 1. So if I try to open this particular protected document, as you can see, the document, it's open in the 3D Visual Enterprise viewer. So you can, it's a visual diagram. You can rotate it, and you can also play. You can also try to edit it. It has an option to edit as well, and you can also see that there is a watermark that gets generated on the document with user ID and also date and timestamp. So basically, with the watermark, you could also even if some fraudulent user trying to take a picture of it, you would still be able to trace it back. Who took the picture and also who tried to leak particular data. So in that way, the watermarks will be useful. So we can also see what are the permissions for this particular user on the file. So to check that, we can go back to the file and check the file info. So when you see the file info, it would list different permissions Engineer 1 has on this particular document. Yeah, you can see here. So he has he has permission to view, edit, print, save as, and also watermark. Those are the permissions for Engineer 1 on that particular document. So for the same document, let's try to check with different user. Let's say Engineer 4. He does not have any permissions as per the policy. So let me log in as Engineer 4 and try to open the same document. Okay, I logged in as BOM Engineer 4. Let's try to see the same document. Let's try to view the same document. Yeah, as you can see, it says access denied. So since he does not have access to the file, he does not have permission to the file to open it, and that's coming based on the policy at the time of the document being protected. When you're downloading the document from SAP, the time the policy, the DRM policy that we have written is applied on the document. That's why BOM Engineer 4 is not able to view this particular document because he does not have access to it. You can also let's try to check with a different user, which is BOM Project 1. He should be able to view the document, but he should not be able to edit the document. So let me log in as BOM engineer, BOM project 1. I logged in as BOM project 1 user. So let's look at the same document again. Before I open it, I just want to let's see the permissions of the file for this particular user. As you can see, he has permission to view, print, save as. So he does not have permission to edit, and he does not have a watermark. So those are the permission. Whereas engineer 1, who is the kind of the owner of the particular document, he has every right. He has a view, edit, print, save as, and also watermark on the particular document. Let's try to open the document with the project 1. As you can see here, you can see he is able to see the document, and as you can see, there is no watermark. So it's again just to demonstrate that these functionalities are controlled with a policy. For this user, we did not include a watermark to demonstrate that. So similarly, let's try to edit this document and see what happens. So I tried to change the color and see. Let me try to save as. So as you can see, there's a pop-up down below. You do not have permission to perform this particular action. So I can check that message again. You do not have permission to perform the save as operation. So all the changes he is doing, he will not be able to save. He is not able to save as. Even in fact, he should also not be able to save them as well. Let's try to save it. Cannot save model to the file. Yeah. So in this way, we demonstrated that at the time of downloading a document from SAP, the document will be protected based on the policies, and also the protected document will have different users will have different permissions on the document. Even if you send this particular protected document via email to a different user, since outside of your organization, for example, since that particular user will not have any permissions for the policy, so he will not be able to see those particular documents.
All right, everyone. Thanks, Pratap and Krishna, for the demonstrations. First, I'll go over a few of the questions that have been asked and answered, during the presentation, just to make sure everyone is aware of them. The first one was, would DAE be sold by SAP, like SAP DAM and SAP EDRM? And the answer is no. Right now, DAE is offered directly from NextLabs, not through SAP. Then there's a couple questions around the difference between DAE and SAP data masking, SAP UI masking. And I think Pratap or Krishna, do you want to just jump in and speak a little bit more at length on that?
Sure. I think SAP data masking, right? In general, there are a lot of difference. First of all, the whole approach and the methodology is different, right? And NextLabs data masking, it's a complete platform, including the policies and everything. But SAP's one is not a, it's not like a policy-driven approach, and it's also dependent on the type of UI. Meaning, the way they enforce for GUI is different for Fiori or maybe some web application. In fact, it doesn't work. Let's say if you write your own query, write your own report, SAP don't mask that thing unless you go and add the configuration there. So whereas NextLabs DAE, it doesn't differentiate between UI. You just write one policy. It doesn't matter whether you access from GUI or Fiori, or even from a custom application or a custom web application. We don't differentiate. Everywhere masking is applied. Whereas in SAP, it's a different. You have to do for each of the UI there is a separate configuration.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for that clarification. Another question that was asked: does this work only for SAP ABAP systems or Java systems as well? And the answer to that is that Java systems are also supported by our data access products. Let's see other questions here. There's a question about whether this is used only for data masking or if there's products for data identification and classification. See that Pratap's actually typing an answer right now, but we can probably just jump in and answer that.
Yeah, sure. So we have different other capabilities now to support the identification and classification. Yeah, so we can share more details, part of our other enforcers.
Okay, and then a couple other questions that we've gotten. One is, can the same data masking policy be applied to both SAP ECC and SAP and S/4HANA systems?
Yes, yeah. So this can be applied to both ECC and S/4HANA, and then we are certified for both. Yeah.
Okay. And does SAP Dynamic Authorization support SAP BW and BW for HANA?
That's correct. Yeah, we support both of them. Yeah, so including BI, BW, whether BW for HANA or BW on HANA, all those combinations also we support. Yes.
Okay. And then one last question I have right now, and then please do ask more questions if you still have them. The last one I have at the moment is, can we have attributes from both SAP and non-SAP systems used for policy evaluation?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, so we have options to source the attributes from different systems. I mean, if it is already in SAP, that's great. You can use it as is. But if it is somewhere outside of SAP, so we have a methodology called enrollment, where you can enroll those attributes from your non-SAP system, like maybe, for example, Workday, or maybe some Active Directory, for example, right? So you can enroll those attributes into our NextLabs control center, and then you can use those attributes in the policy definition. So at the time of policy evaluation, the system will automatically identify those attributes in the runtime, and then it would use it in the evaluation, and that way it will differentiate whether a user is allowed or not allowed. So yeah, so the answer is yes. So we support attributes from both from SAP and non-SAP.
Okay, great. With that, another question just came in. Just asking about the difference between the different NextLabs products. So let's say technical data export compliance for SAP, data access enforcer DAE for SAP, and then entitlement manager for SAP.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so the data access enforcer for SAP, like primarily the scenarios that what we have gone through, it basically supports masking and filtering of the data. The entitlement manager for SAP, it has multiple capabilities that you want to control at the application layer, where you also want to manage and simplify the role management within SAP, and also perform the specific operations at the UI layer. Whereas a technical data export compliance, again, it's part of our entitlement manager for SAP. It has more capabilities in terms of structured and unstructured data.
Okay, great. And so that's the last question I see at the moment. I'll just want to mention again that this webinar has been recorded, and we will be sending out emails after the webinar is concluded with links to see the recorded webinar, which you definitely either view it yourselves or share with anyone that you think would be interested. But with that, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. And if you do have any follow-up questions, you can either contact us or go to our website or check out our Twitter and LinkedIn profiles like at NextLabs. But that's all for now. Thank you very much.